Alright, what is up, everybody? It is the TheSaltiestGaijin coming to you here on YouTube, where we're going to be talking more about Strixhaven. So, of course, for those who aren't aware, we have Strixhaven is a new set coming out on April 15th on Magic the Gathering Arena. And it's really a set that's positioned to not only have an impact on Standard, of course, as most Standard sets do, but it's also offering quite a lot of cards that we'll see play in older than non-rotating formats. Today we're going to be looking at MTG Arena's non-rotating format, Historic, which we're big fans of here on the channel. And we're going to review what I believe will be the top 5 cards for Historic from the Strixhaven main set. Of course, we did do a similar review for the Strixhaven Mystical Archive, which you can check that out by clicking the link in the description below. But of course, this being more from the main set, I think there's a lot of cards in here, and some of them even will rival some of the cards we looked at in the Mystical Archive. Now, of course, before we get into the list proper, we do have a handful of honorable mentions that I wanted to really touch on. So one of the cards that stood out to me personally, because it fits right into a deck that I enjoy playing quite a lot, is Strixhaven Stadium. So Strixhaven Stadium is a 3-mana artifact that allows you to tap it for a mana, and then when you do that, you get to put a counter onto Strixhaven Stadium. Now, it does have a few other lines of text here. It's quite a lot of text, Magic 2021 for you, but it's whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, you remove a point counter from it. And then whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, you put a point counter on it. So you kind of have that give and take. But then, when your creature deals combat damage to an opponent, there's 10 or more counters on this. You remove them all, that player loses the game. So the deck that this really stood out for me, that it fit right into a Simic Paradox engine. Whether or not it's really necessary to play in a deck like that remains to be seen, but it's a mana rock, which that deck absolutely loves having, and it offers an alternative win condition. Because if you're doing your combo, you're going to have an Emery in play, and your deck already plays, say, something like Aether Spellbomb, which realistically you could just activate an infinite number of times, returning all your opponent's creatures to their hand before attacking them for 1 with the Emery and ending the game. So very interesting card. We'll see. Definitely one we're going to try out here on the channel. Whether or not it's particularly powerful in the overall format, we'll find out. Our second honorable mention just sort of stood out to me more as an interesting design was Mavinda, Student's Advocate. So Mavinda is a card with a lot of text on it. So definitely a very interesting card. So it's a 3-mana 2/3 legendary bird advisor. It does have flying, so on rate, not really the best card as far as a creature goes in constructed, but this is really interesting ability. So for 0 mana, you may cast target instant or sorcery from your graveyard this turn. If that spell doesn't target a creature you control, it costs 8 or more to cast this way. And if that spell would be put into your graveyard, exile instead. Then you can only do this once per turn. So what's really interesting with a card like this is that it rewards you for playing like pump effects and cards like God's Willing. There is a deck in Historic, used to be a deck in Standard, Red, White, Feather, which just plays like a slurry of different interactive spells. The card that it takes really good advantage of is Reckless Rage. Now, that deck already has Dreadhorde Arcanist, so I'm not sure if Mavinda really fits into that strategy, but it's definitely an interesting card, and one that can act as this kind of payoff. But I will be really interested to see how Mavinda fits into that deck, if it fits at all. That's why I did make the top 5. Then, our last honorable mention is a little bit of a cheat. Because, holy cow, is there just a boatload of really powerful interactive spells. Now, a handful of interactive cards, and by a handful I mean 1, made the top 5 proper here. So it's absolutely there's a long list of cards that we could talk really long time about. So for my honorable mentions, I'll just read through these, take a moment. We got Rip Apart, We got Fracture, Brutality Spear, Decisive Denial, Baleful Mastery, Quandrix Command, Witherbloom Command, even Deadly Brew. There's all these cards that fit into various different strategies and do just a whole heck of a lot of different things for the format. So very interesting to see the level of interaction that we're gonna find with with this set coming in, and all the different strategies are really just kind of getting a big bump in how they can interact with their opponent, which I'm very excited to see. I'm a huge fan of having a wide variety of options that you can use to interact with your opponent, and this set didn't it didn't disappoint. All right, so moving on to our list proper, though, coming in at number 5, we have Prismari Command. So this is the red-blue command. So it's just to kind of go over. Command is a type of card that we see a lot in Magic, where it's instant or sorcery. It's choose 2, and then it has a laundry list of modes. So I really like Prismari Command. It kind of gives me kind of Is It Charm vibes, almost even but even a little bit more. So for 1 a blue and a red, it's an instant. You choose 2. Prismari Command deals 2 damage to any target, so it has basically shock as 1 mode. It has draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. So it has this looting mode. We see that with cards like Faithless Looting. We have target player creates a treasure token, so you can give yourself, it can effectively reduce its cost by 1. And then, of course, destroy target artifact. So just more incidental artifact removal is never really a bad thing, in my opinion. I find that that really helps keep the power level of any kind of oppressive artifact cards from being too good. Not necessarily great for our fan favorite deck, Paradox Engine, but I'm still a big fan of a card like Prismari Command. It doesn't necessarily have a home, so I was a little reluctant to put it in my top 5 cards, but as we get a little later on in the list, it definitely starting to look more and more like we might have a home for it here in Historic. All right, moving on to our next card here. It's really kind of it's a very interesting design, and one that I'm not sure if it's better than other cards we already have, but it's a very powerful card in of itself. That card is Conspiracy Theorist. So I will leave the jokes to people who make memes on social media with this card, but Conspiracy Theorist is a 2-mana creature. It's a 1 and a red for a 2/2, so it's perfectly on rate. And then when Conspiracy Theorist attacks, you may pay 1 and discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That by itself, not the most impressive thing, but it's the second box text that's really important. Whenever you discard 1 or more non-land cards, you may exile 1 of them from your graveyard. If you do, you may cast it this turn. So what I really like about this card is that, say in a red aggressive deck, where you have a lot of cheap 1-mana creatures, 1-mana instants or sorceries, Conspiracy Theorist can attack, you can pay 1, and essentially still get to cast this card that you're exiling, but you get to tag draw a card onto it. So I think it's a card that could really offer a lot of value, especially to decks that could, like, say, attack with it, discard like a removal spell. So like a good example of a line of play here, we might see this kind of in Standard, is Conspiracy Theorist attacks, you discard like a 1-mana removal spell, we'll say in this case a shock, just as an example. You exile the shock, and then you can shock a blocker and get in. So essentially for 2 mana, you got to kill a creature, draw a card, which is insane rate at 2 mana in the early game, and clear the way for your Conspiracy Theorist to get some damage in. So it's a very interesting card. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to play. Absolutely looking forward to trying it out in the various kind of red aggressive decks that are out there. Alright, the next entry on our list here is a little bit of a cheat, but it's actually 2 cards. Clever Luminancer and Leonin Lightscribe. Now, the reason that I put these here is that you're probably going to see these pretty much in the same decks, or at least the same kind of decks. Or at the very least, you'll see Clever Luminancer more often than not. But Leonin Lightscribe, still a card that I felt was worthy of bringing up on the list here. So what these offer is they offer like these kind of burn or heavy instant and sorcery style strategies really kind of just a big payoff, especially Clever Luminancer. We talked a little bit about a deck called Red White Feather when we mentioned Mavinda. These are some more cards that would really fit into a deck like that, especially Clever Luminancer, where it's you're targeting Clever Luminancer with a bunch of spells during the turn. So in and of itself is growing to be massive, and you're doing the thing that you want to be doing anyway. So definitely a card that I think is going to fit right into a strategy like that. But we may also see this in other like Boros burn style strategies, things like that. Card that I think has a little less potency here in Historic, still very good, but it's definitely a card that if you're playing like older formats like Pioneer, Modern, so on, definitely a card you want to keep on your radar, and it's only an uncommon. Alright, before we continue on with our list, just wanted to, of course, go ahead and say thank you for watching here with us. Of course, if you like the content that we do here on the TheSaltiestGaijin channel, you can go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you can, go ahead and give us a share. You can also check us out on our Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/TheSaltiestGaijin. You can find that link in the description below, where we go live and we play Magic, as well as we do some other variety stuff when maybe we're feeling a little off of Magic, or Magic is, in a more of a lame duck period. Alright, but so again, I want to thank you for watching, spending a little bit of your day here with us, and we're going to be moving on here to our next card. We have Magma Opus. So this card, kind of similar to Prismari Command, is a card that doesn't necessarily have a pre-existing home coming into the format. However, a lot of players, or as some might say, many Magic the Gathering players, as well as content creators, think this card will be really that kind of the key to a new archetype, with cards like Torrential Gearhulk, and even, I think it's, Mizzix's Mastery, I think that's the name of the card. Very hard to remember, but it's a very powerful effect. It's a massive instant, 8 mana for this effect. So, if you're looking at this card at really just face value, it's really hard to say that, this card's going to be playable in a format like Historic or anywhere else. But for 6, a blue and a red, what you're getting for that big price tag is 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. So it gets to spread 4 damage, which is particularly powerful. You could tap 2 target permanents. You can create a 4 blue-red elemental, and then you draw 2 cards. So at face value, this card is hot garbage. Would be really kind of the fair evaluation, but really where it starts to shine is it has this other ability here where you can pay a blue and a red or a blue and a red. So 2 mana to discard this to create a treasure token. So what's really powerful about that is that Magma Opus offers a buyout clause, so you can make mana if you do get into a really late game, the kind of decks you're likely to play this in are gonna play to more long game style strategy. You can just cast this for 8 mana, probably get a lot of value, but if you combine it with a card like Torrential Gearhulk that can cast it out of the graveyard for free, that's where it starts to really become really powerful. Because if Torrential Gearhulk enters the battlefield on your opponent's upkeep, killing a few of their creatures, putting a 4/4, drawing 2 cards, but most importantly, tapping down 2 of their lands, you're going from this card is hot garbage to we just dumpstered our opponent, put 9 power on the battlefield. That could be incredibly powerful. How that fits into the greater Historic format it remains to be seen. I think it will be a very powerful option, especially because not only are you going to have cards like Magma Opus, you're going to have Prismari Command, you're getting things like Electrolyze and Brainstorm, even Faithless Looting, as well as some other cards from the main set. Like you could even play cards like Galazeth Prismari, the blue-red Elder Dragon, play Torrent Sculptor, which is another card that offers a kind of a buyout clause with Magma Opus because it has Flamethrower Sonata. And this Magma Opus makes that a 2 mana deal 8 to target, to I believe just creatures, but it's a very powerful effect when it's all said and done, and really just something that we'll see. Target creature or planeswalker with Flamethrower Sonata, but just a very powerful card that's really going to help push an archetype kind of into existence, at least for those early days of the format. All right, and then our very last card, and our number one card here from Historic, is probably also my personal favorite card to come out of Historic, and that's Culling Ritual. So when you look at Culling Ritual, and you start really just thinking about the format and the kinds of decks we see, say, right now in Historic. So this is 2 black-green. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, or converted mana cost 2 or less for the older Magic players out there. Add a black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. So this is a card that at face value, you're like, I mean, that seems good, but how good is it in context? But then you start looking at, what's the number one deck? Jund. And there's multiple versions of Jund. This would destroy Witch's Oven, clean up all of the food tokens, kill their cats, kill their priests, clear away things like Trail of Crumbs, any other 2-mana threats or cards they might be playing. So it just can disrupt heavily whatever it is your opponent's doing. And then the best part is that in a lot of, say in that scenario where your opponent has a cat, a food, an oven, a Trail of Crumbs, we'll say, they can, albeit they can get rid of one of those permanents, this Culling Ritual is also going to make 3 mana. Meaning it costs 1 mana to destroy all of those things, and you get to play another card. So I think Culling Ritual is the kind of card we're going to probably see really help bring decks like Black-Green X, like ramp strategies, mid-range decks, just really have this kind of out against these other decks. So there's even other matchups you can look at, like Auras, a deck that, its main deck, it's a lure strategy, so every non-land permanent card, costs 2 or less in that strategy, so there's just a clean sweep against everything they're doing. So I think Culling Ritual is going to be the kind of card that is going to really make us have to reevaluate, how powerful those kind of tier 1 decks actually are post Strixhaven, and it's really going to start to really warp the format. We're probably going to see a lot of decks, I think, play Culling Ritual, and by byproducts, a lot of decks will start to pop up that Culling Ritual is maybe not so good against in response to the metagame. But we've seen like Sultai piles really just be incredibly powerful throughout a lot of different stages in Historic, whether that was your Rock Field or just Sultai mid-range, 4-color mid-range, whatever it might be. This really scary thing for me with this card personally is the fact that it synergizes really well with Nissa Who Shakes the World, which is a very scary combination of cards for me, but when I think about it, because I'm not a huge fan of a card like Nissa Who Shakes the World, but this is going to be a very powerful effect in Historic, and it is TheSaltiestGaijin's number 1 pick from Strixhaven for Historic. I plan to play a lot of this card. Alright, well that is our list. Of course, I understand there's a lot of cards in Strixhaven, and there's a lot of cards that could have made this top 5, so I want you to let me know your top 5 cards from Strixhaven for either Historic or even Standard, or really if you're just excited for any cards from Strixhaven. You let me know in the comments down below. Again, you can check out our Mystical Archive top 5 video, as well as we did a Mystical Archive review. I'll have links to those videos in the description below. You can also, again, check us out on Twitch. Right now, we're actually doing a giveaway on our Twitch channel, where we're giving out a $25 Amazon gift card once we hit our follower goal. We're trying to get to 50 followers. Once we're at that 50 followers, we will go ahead and we will pick one at random, and we will provide them with that $25 Amazon gift card. So that's free money waiting for you on my Twitch channel. Go ahead and check us out. But I appreciate you spending a little bit of your day here with us, and we will see you again soon.